Hello everyone, so I'm back and this is the latest game that I've developed for the Mini Ludum Dare 61 game development competition. The theme this month was to develop a game focused on your weakness. So I thought about it for a little while and I was like, well, I really haven't developed too many games focused on like a game engine with artificial intelligence. So I really focused on the AI in this game. This is based on a World Conquest board game, and it's also set during the Civil War, so there's a little bit of a historical aspect to it. So here's the title screen. You see the two flags. The two factions in this game are the Union and the Confederacy. Currently, you can only play as the Confederacy. I guess playing as the Union will be in a future update. So I developed this using the cloth texture in Unity, the two flags, and I did this title in Blender and imported that into Unity. So here's the main game screen. You have three options over here to the side. You can distribute troops, you can attack, and you can intern. And here are all the territories in the game. So the objective of the game is to conquer all of the territories. So you start out as the Confederacy. The currently active player is highlighted down here. You got the Confederacy and the Union with all their spare troops. And so yeah, it's my turn right now, so I'm going to attack. So let's just pick Perryville right here. So once you click the attack button, it will highlight all of the territories that are able to attack. And all of these territories are based on or named after real Civil War battlefields. In a future update, I would like to actually have a map here with all these laid out on a real map. But for now, I just used these basic shapes in order to display the battlefield. So once I selected an attacking territory, it will just display in light green all of the territories that I'm able to attack. And the rules of this game, you must have at least one unit to be able to attack one of your opponent's territories, and their territories must be touching your attacking territory. So I'm going to attack Shiloh, and then it rolls. So basically you can roll as many dice, and when you're attacking, your dice are in red. The defender's dice are in green. So you can attack with as many troops as you have in your territory, -1, because you can't attack with your very last troop. Then the defender can defend with as many troops that are in his territory. There's one exception. You can only have a maximum of 3 attackers at once, and the defender can only defend with 2 at one time. So the way it does this is that it takes your highest roll and the defender's highest roll, and it compares those two. And since I rolled a 4 and he rolled a 5, I lost 1. So Perryville lost 1. Then it looks like at the next highest rolls. So since I rolled a 4 and my opponent rolled a 3, I defeated one of his troops. So Shiloh lost 1 as well. So you just basically keep repeating this, selecting different territories and trying to reduce your opponent's number of units in their territory down to 0. So yeah, Shiloh lost 2, so they lost all of their units in that territory. So now it belongs to me. It now belongs to the Confederacy. So whenever you conquer a territory, it always gets set to 3 troops. That isn't the rules of the original board game. I could go in there and tweak that a little bit, but that's the current rules that I have right now. So I usually like to go through here and attack just a little bit. I don't like using all of my troops up on the first turn. And it automatically calculates how many troops are lost, and it displays in this little battle log down here. So I'm going to end my turn. So now it's the Union's turn. On every single turn, the currently active player gets 3 additional troops. So that's what the distribute troops is for. So my AI right now, it is still very simplistic. It will automatically assign troops to the territory with the lowest number of units, which may not be the optimal solution, because you may have a territory up here with only one, but you've conquered all the way down to here. You'd probably rather put your troops down here, but that's just my simplistic AI. And also, my AI kind of uses a greedy algorithm. It goes through and it determines all of the territories that can attack, and this is the AI playing through right now. So it's going to find any territory that it can use to attack, and then it's going to select randomly one of the territories that it is able to attack. So after it runs out of options to attack, it ends its turn, the AI ends its turn, and it switches control back over to me. Now I have 3 troops, so I'm going to distribute these troops. So you just click on the distribute button, and I usually like to go here in the center. And I always like doing 4 because that gives me the maximum amount of dice that I can roll on an attack, because the maximum is 3, so you have to have at least 3 and 1 other left over to roll 3 dice. So I'm just going to go after these guys. Most likely these will be easy targets. So like here, I rolled a 3, 2, and a 1, so my 3 beats his 2. Okay, in the event of a tie, then the defender always wins. But since he rolled the 5 here, I lost 1 troop. And by the way, this game is available to play on itch.io in the web-based version. You do have to have the Unity plugin to play it on itch.io. If you go to GameJolt, you can play either the web version or the desktop version. Now my AI opponent is down to his last unit, so I'm going to bring all of these up to 4. And there we go. Not much of a glorious ending, it just says the Confederacy wins. So that's something else I could add to this, a nice victory screen for when you win or whenever you lose. But yeah, that's the game. By the way, I modeled the dice in Blender as well. I think they came out pretty well. So yeah, I just wanted to take a minute and talk about how I came about developing this game. So since I wanted to focus on the engine on this game and not the graphics and audio and all that, I actually developed the game first as a simple Ruby game. And this was very helpful in defining all of the states of the game and all of different actions that the player can take in the game. So here, since you don't have a graphical interface, you just have to like display the nations. So it shows United States or the Union and the Confederacy. First I had them called states instead of territories, but kind of interchangeable. Territory is a little bit more easy to understand when you're also talking about different game states in the game. So there's like the model, like in a model view controller. Here's the model of all the data that's underlying in the game, all the different territories and their name and the number of troops assigned to each territory, and then also finally the nation that each territory belongs to. So yeah, you can also look at the borders. So you just type B12 and that will show you all of the borders for a territory. These are actually defined in a text file which I imported into Unity as a resource, so I was able to just basically pull that information into the game while still keeping it as a separate text file. But yeah, you can basically just go in here and attack, and it'll give you the list of territories that are able to attack. So let's say I want to attack from 10 Perryville. Then it's going to give you the listing of territories that you can attack, and let's just say I want to attack Shiloh. And in this version you could actually pick how many you wanted to attack, And then it shows you the roles right here, 5, 3, and a 1. It actually, Ruby has a method to sort a list, so then it determines the outcome. So in this one, I lost 1 troop, and the defender also lost a troop. So then you can display the territories again. You can see Shiloh lost 1, and also Perryville lost 1 as well. And I can end the turn, and in this one the AI, I really didn't work on the AI much in the text-based version of this game, but he will take 1 turn. So I basically just use that same concept when I develop the full game, where the AI just continually attacks until they run out of troops and territories that can attack. I also wanted to show off what I did in Blender for this game. Here you can see the title screen. So this is just basically a simple text object that you can create over here using this text on the left side over here. I can actually go in here and edit dynamically whatever I want it to say. And then you have like the text options over here on the right side. And this is where you can actually set the font. You can set how far it's extruded, so you can make it really deep or really skinny. And you have other bevel options if you want to make the edges more round, or how far off it comes off. Here is the die that I made for the game, and also texture mapped it. Made a very simple texture map. You have the text, the UV image editor over here, which I created a very simple image in GIMP, and it's basically 1 white square and 1 gray square. So the white square is what changes to either red or green based on who is rolling, and then this gray square over here is the pit of the die. So basically it's a just a cube, and I went in and I subdivided it and I extruded inward, and I had 2 vertex groups here so that the actual circles in here are made a little bit darker than the rest of the die. So I basically took all of these squares where the pits should be. And a little bit of trivia, I never knew this before, but the 2 opposite sides on a die, they always add up to 7, so I actually tried to use the real layout of a standard die. So I just extruded these inward and rounded them up a little bit, and then I used my UV editor. I actually went in and projected this using a cube projection onto here, which seemed to work pretty well. The last thing that I modeled in Blender is the actual territory hexagon. So I basically just took a square and made it so it had 6 sides, and then I extruded inward and then downward, and then I just did a project from view onto this image, and I put the Confederacy symbol over here so it shows up over here. If you wanted to get it to show up in the world view in the editor over here, you always have to change the shading to GLSL and check texture solid. Also make sure that you got this set to texture over here so it actually shows up. And so I just use the same layout for the Union flag, and that's what I switch out as those 2 textures. Here's the game actually running in Unity. So here's the title screen, very simple, just the 2 flags and the model title text model that I imported. For the most part, I didn't use Playmaker with this, but there's a few tricks that I wanted, like the fade in and fade out, that I end up using Playmaker. But yeah, you can select one of these flags, and then you can see over here on the right side, I'm using the cloth component that comes with Unity 5, which is a little bit different than the previous cloth component. One thing you got to watch out for, if you use a plain it will create a skinned mesh renderer, and you'll always have to go back and set the mesh back to that root plane for it to show. And make sure you set the material. You got to create a material for each of the flags, and you assign that up here. And yeah, if you come down, you can actually edit constraints with Unity 5, which makes it a little bit easier to do cloth and flags and things like that. Basically, go through here and it gives you these vertices for each of these points of the flag. And you can see here at the top, these are red, so basically you can just paint using this, and you can set like different values down here of how far each of these vertices can move. So you can go through here, select paint mode. You can set it to 0 if you don't want these vertices to move at all, or if you just want it to move like one unit, you can color it that magenta color, and they'll let it move by one unit. So that's basically how you make a flag. You just go in there and set all of the other vertices to black so they're unconstrained. Then on the side that you want to be bound, you just set all those to red or to 0 constrained. This game has all the typical things you would expect in a game. I have 2 scenes, the title scene and the game scene. So basically the title or the game screen is just basically a plane, that's it. But when you go in and you hit the play button, so you can see there all of the game objects are populated when the game starts. Also like to have statistics on up here. It gives you some useful information about how many frames per second you're getting. It's kind of helpful. Earlier I had to debug a memory leak. One thing I also use as well is the task manager. If you see the amount of memory that your game is using is continually increasing and not getting any smaller at all, you may have a memory leak. My memory leak came from assigning a material on every frame to one of these territories. You would think it would use the same material, but apparently it allocates memory for a new material every time a material is assigned. So what you got to do is use the set texture instead of using just assigning a material. And basically in my Explorer over here, I have audio, 2 folders for the music and for the sound effects in the game. So I have all the sound effects down here, which you can click on one and click the play button. You can hear that was the dice. That was the drum sound whenever you distribute a troop. That's the in-turn sound. And that's the cheering sound whenever you conquer a territory. Just using one font in this game. I got that from the 1000 font website, which I think it's like $20 to get 1000 fonts, which you can use in any game, so I think that's well worth it. These are Playmaker things. I got all the materials, the 2 flags, and the background material, and all that. I also have a material for the title text. I made this using these settings over here. I made it a little bit metallic, so it's a little bit shiny. Gives it a nice little look to it. Have the models pulled into here directly from Blender. All the Playmaker stuff that I pulled in. My prefab, so I got basically a nation object, a territory, and a die. Here's those text files to resources. So this is where all of the borders are defined in the game. So the borders are just a common delimited list of integers, because every territory is identified by an integer. Same goes for the nations. I only have 2, but that's where the names of the nations are stored. I have this setup file, and basically it's just 1s and 0s. It's the initial state of all of the territories, which nation controls each of the territories. And then finally, I have the territories defined. So it's just basically a listing of names. So you can go in here and change all of the names of the territories. I had to play one little trick, like some of the territory names were too big for to fit on the little hexagon. So I had to put a space in there, and then in my logic, when I place the name of the text on the hexagon, I do a line break on every single space. So that's something that needs to be fixed a little bit there. Basically, I have scripts for all of the different objects, and also have scripts for the buttons, and pulled in my Unity helper that I wrote a long time ago. And basically, Unity helper just does the shadowing of the text that you see on the screen. And also I put all of my AI in a separate script, so the AI just basically calls the same methods that I use whenever the player performs an action, such as distributing troops or attacking and all those good things. It just calls those same methods. To do the flag, I had to create a custom shader, which really isn't that much. All you got to do is you go in here and you set this line to cull off, and that makes both sides of the flag show. Otherwise, you will only see one side of the flag. And finally, the textures, which are all the textures that I mentioned earlier, plus the different buttons in the game. And that's basically it. Ludum Dare is coming up soon. I'll probably be streaming for the next Ludum Dare, which is coming up soon. And you can always follow me on Twitter, GATechGrad. You can also visit my website at levidsmith.com. And there you can find all the games that I've written and that I have posted online. Also have a Facebook page if you want to check that out, Levi D. Smith Software, and you can check out all my latest postings on there. So yeah, this is Civil Warriors. I'm going to consider this one to be done for now. May go back at a later date and add more to this. But until next time, thanks everyone for watching.